What if Issei was from Ohio, part 4? You see, currently Issei and Asia were currently eating breakfast. You see, the reason they were at this scene currently eating right now, and today was a Saturday too, there was no school, was because Issei had just said something controversial. Issei basically said that he was going to go to the underworld to Ozzy. He basically explained to his plans about saving Gremory. To see if it would be interesting. And Asia argued with Issei not to go because she thought it would be too dangerous for him. Issei says, "Don't worry, I will be fine." As Issei then offers Asia if she wants to spectate the event. Asia says yes because she wants to keep an eye on Issei. She doesn't want Issei to be hurt. Meanwhile with Rias' peerage, as it was a depressing tone, as it was a depressing moment, as then Gracia appeared into the ORC. As Gracia then said, "Rias, you know what time it is. You know what time is about to come." As Rias then looks down in a sad tone, but then Rias gains hope because she and her peerage had trained for 10 days, and they have drastically improved. So she thinks she has a chance of beating Riser. As then Riser came into the ORC alone with his magic circle. And the reason Riser came here was to flex his power, to give Gremory no hope even if she trained for 10 days. Riser was basically talking shit. He was saying, Rias, even after those 10 days of training, you'll still never beat me. As then Rias said, "That's not true." As then Riser then said, "Oh, the game will tell, Rias. The game will tell. Maybe in a few minutes, the game will tell." As then Riser then left, as Kiba was kind of angry of how Riser was talking to Rias. As Akano was a bit amused, Koneko, she personally didn't care. As then, a few minutes later, as Rias and Akano were teleported into an alternate realm, as this is where the raiding game would take place. Meanwhile with Issei, as Issei had just previously went into his room, planning on going to sleep for a little bit before the engagement happens. He went into his room and he was about to go to sleep because he felt like going to sleep. He felt tired, even though he can easily just make himself untired. He doesn't want to do that. He wants the beauty of sleep. As Issei was about to fall asleep, but then a red magic circle appeared in his room. As then Issei then said, as then every door in the room had locked. As there was a barrier around Issei's room. As then the person that came out of this red circle revealed to be a tall man with crimson hair, which had armor plates all over his body. As this person appears to be a male older version of Rias Gremory. As then Issei then said, "Who are you?" He then said, "Who are you?" As Great Sage was about to respond. As then Sirzech said, "I am Sirzech's Lucifer, of Gremory, the Lucifer of the underworld." And you see, I've come here to ask you for help because I've heard about your species. I call all your anomalies. I can't even call you I can't even call you human, so I call you guys species. Because of your anomalies, you are completely an anomaly to humanity and to all races. As then Sirzech bows and says, I need your help, Ohio citizen. As then Issei was shocked because he didn't know that there was actually people who know about Ohio that were outside of Ohio. So there was some people. As then Issei then said, how do you know about Ohio? As then Sirzech then said that the reason I know about Ohio is because one time an Ohio citizen, not knowing of his status of an average Ohio citizen, and he was able to one-shot me in all of hell, but he erased the memories of every devil in hell except for my memories. That's why I still remember the Ohio citizens, and I feel the same Ohio energy coming from you. I felt from him. So I'm asking you, Issei Hyodo, are you willing to help me out? Please help out my sister not get married, not get forcefully married in the forced engagement. As then Issei, he was already going to help out Rias because of his boredom. But he wanted to get something out of Sirzech. And then Issei then said, what am I gonna get if I help you? Said Issei. As then Sirzech said, you can get anything you want, any wish you want. You can get a harem if you want to. Absolutely anything. As Issei then said, I can easily grant that to myself. As then Sirzech then said in his thoughts, then why did you ask if you can easily get that? As then Issei sent a telepathic message. Oh, so you can have the equivalent exchange. The law of equivalent exchange. You give out something equal, and I give out something equal in return. Said Issei in his telepathic thoughts. Sirzech was surprised that Issei had telepathy, but then he remembered he was an average Ohio citizen. And then Sirzech said, I'll grant you any one wish that you want. Please save my sister, he said in a pleading tone. And then Issei then said, first of all, why don't you just ask your parents to call off the engagement? As then Sirzech said, I tried to get my parents and the parents of the Phoenix to call off the engagement, but they're too obsessed with with what's going on in the underworld and how most of the devils are becoming reincarnated devils, and that the pure bloods are getting wiped out, and that we need more pure blooded devils. So they're basically mad up. They're basically not alright with how there's mostly reincarnated devils. So they want to make the pure blooded devil bloodline not extinct. And then Issei then said, if they wanted more pure blooded devils, why don't they just make more babies with each other instead of forced marriages? Since devils have an average lifespan for 10,000 years, they can just make more babies. Like, their families they can have 10 kids each, and each 1,000 years or 100 years, they can have more kids, and those kids can also have more kids, and the cycle can repeat endlessly. I don't know why they're using forced marriages to extend their race extend the longevity of their race. And then Sirzech agreed with Issei. And then Sirzech asked, will you help Issei Hyodo? As in Issei then said, fine, I'll help you. Now please get out of my room because I want to go to sleep for a minute. I'll go to sleep when... This is how I'm going to save your sister from the engagement. So after she loses to Riser, Sirzech's question, what do you mean loses to Riser? I thought you were gonna help her fight in the rating game. As then Issei says, don't worry, I will, but I'll do that after. What I mean by this is, once she basically loses to Riser and is forced to get engaged by him, we're gonna make up some BS about how Riser wasn't showing his full power during the fight, causing him to have to fight again. Because I'm gonna appear out of nowhere, and I'm gonna appear out of nowhere trying to protect Rias. I'm gonna also be in a suit to hide my identity. But yeah, I'm gonna come out of nowhere, boom, save Rias, boom, beat Riser, save Rias, and Rias will have her freedom, and the story goes on. Said Issei. As then Sirzech, he liked this plan. It would just look like Riser wasn't putting his all into the last rating game fight, so Riser would just have to fight again. As Sirzech agreed with this plan and was satisfied, as he then went back into the underworld, looking at the rating game. As Issei then yawned as he then went back to sleep. As then Issei told Great Sage, set a timer for me for 2 hours. 2 hours to wake up. As Great Sage then said, your wish is my command, master. As she set the timer for 2 hours for Issei to wake up. Meanwhile, with Rias' peerage, as the rated game had just started, as it was an alternate version of Cool Academy. The Pocket Dimension was an alternate version with all of the high-class devils watching this very event, watching the rating game, because it would decide whether the two great families of the Phoenix and the Gremry would get married. Rias was currently in the ORC making a plan to defeat Riser, who was in the principal's office. As then, etc. As then, Konako went downstairs into the gym and had to fight these two twins who had chainsaws. As this was light work for Konako, as she kept dodging and punching, etc., etc. Then Kiba, let's just say he was fighting a swordswoman, and she was exactly equal to Kiba's strength, giving Kiba a run for his money as he kept summoning his 1,000 swords. As Kiba then created a sword of pure flames, and that's how he got rid of one of Riser's servants, as it literally said, Riser's knight has been defeated. As then Konako had beaten the twins, as it then said, Riser's pawns have been defeated. Then Akano and Rias were... Then Riser was outside of the school building because he wanted to fight Rias then and there. As Akano and Rias were outside of the school building also, everybody was outside of the school building. As then Yuma Luna, before they could reach Riser, Yuma Luna appeared out of nowhere. Seems that she is teleported. As then Yuma Luna said, before you can reach Riser someone, you have to go through me first. As then Yuma Luna used her fiery explosion magic, at Akano. But you know how Akano is. She liked that. So Akano used her electricity and they basically had fought. These were two queen pieces fighting. So they didn't know who would win. As then they both hit each other, but this time both of them were disqualified because their powers were on equal terms. Their powers are on equal par of destruction. As then Ria, she was panicking about how Akano was gone, but she believed that she got this. As then Rias had reached to the final building at the rooftop. As it then said, Riser's whole peerage has been down. As then Kiba had also came in front of Rias, so had Koneko, planning on teaming up against Riser. As then Rias then said, "Look, Riser, we got you all cornered. It's only you against us now. Your whole peerage is gone." As then Riser merely laughed at them. As then Riser then said, "You thought my peerage was my source of my strength? If you thought that, Rias, then you're surely mistaken." As then Riser had flaming auras around him, having the aura of a phoenix, as he had fire all over his body. "No, my true power comes from my magic. The magic of the Phoenix, the pride of the Phoenix clan. It comes from my immortality and my Phoenix flames. It comes from my very willpower, my very energy. That's where my true power comes from. And if you think you can beat me, you are surely mistaken. You surely need to wake up to reality, little girl," he said onto Rias, as Rias got a little enraged by this. As then Kiba, as Riser was about to shoot up a fire blast at Rias, Koneko, and Kiba, as Kiba went in front of it and tried to deflect it, but it showed no use. As then Riser went up to Kiba and choked him. You know, Rias' shit, or Rias' knight in shining armor or whatever, or her white coat knight boy, I really hated you. When I first saw you, I hated your very existence. You're the ideal man I don't want to be, said Riser, as he threw Kiba aside, as Ria screamed out, "Kiba, no!" As Riser burned Kiba, incinerated him in his flames, as Kiba had scratches, but then he disappeared back into the real world, the real underworld. As then Koneko, as it was only Rias and Koneko, as then Rias then, out of pure anger, Koneko also in pure anger, Rias shot up all of her energy, all of her ball of destruction energy, not all of it, but most of it. As Koneko was also giving Rias some of her magic to amp it, but she wasn't using Senjutsu magic. She was just using some of her own magic to amp up the ball of destruction, as there was literally an aura around the ball of destruction as they aimed it for Riser's head. As when it hit Riser's head, Riser's very head was erased from existence, but then silence enveloped the dimension as Riser's very head was regenerating back into existence. As then Rhea said, "How? That's my family's prized technique. That's the ball of destruction. It's supposed to erase absolutely anything it touches from existence." As then Ryzen then said, "Oh, how? That's because my Phoenix abilities is supposed to regenerate absolutely anything, any damage it takes, even if it gets erased from existence." You cannot kill me, Rias. There is no way for me to die. I am truly immortal, Ryza said in pure and utter pride. As then, Ryza, he summons a flame meteor. Yes, out of pure flame energy he is gathered, out of pure magic. As he then shoots it at Rias and Konako. As then they realized they were fucked. As it incinerated them. As Rias and Konako were also teleported back to the ORC. Kiba was teleported back to the ORC too. So was Akano. As the whole dimension began to fade. As then Ryza had met his father. As his father then said, "Good performance, Ryza." As for Rias' mother and father, they were quite sad that Rias was forced to marry Ryza, so was Sirzech. But Sirzech already had a plan, so he wasn't that sad. A few hours later, an hour later, Rias was in a room preparing, as there was maids surrounding her, as she was preparing for her wedding with Ryza, as Rias honestly looked depressed. She was forced to marry Ryza, as all she can do was look on the ground, hoping that someone can save her. But she knew that was a mere fantasy that would never come into reality. As then one of the maids said, "You must be happy to be able to marry Ryza-sama." As the other maid then said, "You're gonna look stunning in that dress. You're gonna look beautiful in that dress." As then Ryza then teleported through his phoenix circle and said, My, Rias, you look stunning in that dress. You'll surely look great for the after party," Ryza said in a happily and arrogant tone as Rias looked depressed. As then Ryza had grabbed Rias and teleported her into the marriage event thing. As Rias' peerage, all they could look down was in shame and depression, as Bravo was bragging about how her brother defeated those filthy grimoires. She was bragging in front of the crowd, as Rias had no hope. And then, out of nowhere, as Ryza was standing, there was light. Light had just enveloped out of pure nothingness, and it had just kicked Ryza across the very room, sending him through craters, as everybody else was wide-eyed and pure in utter shock, because they didn't know what was going on. As Sirzech then said, "Really, I was not expecting this type of entrance, but I'm not even gonna get on him about that." And then it revealed to be a humanoid figure in a black suit, as then Ryza was in pure and utter anger, as he then screamed out, "Who are you?" As then the man in the suit, or should I say Issei, then said, "That doesn't matter. Now all that matters is that I want to have a duel with you." And then Ryza then said, "I will surely not accept this. If we have a duel, I will surely kill you where you stand, boy, for interrupting my wedding." I said, "Ryza." Then Rias, when she saw this masked figure, she saw hope. As Azia, no one saw Azia, but she was in the back spectating this event. She truly wanted to see if Issei was okay, and Issei already showed her the suit. As then Sirzech then said, I will allow this duel to take place because of the bullshit reason Issei explained to him. I'll allow this duel to take place because Riser, for the majority of the time in the raiding game, he didn't really fight my sister. So basically, it didn't show that he was that strong since he basically wasn't fighting that much in the raiding game. So we should host another duel for Rias' freedom to prove so that Riser can fight. So Riser can demonstrate his abilities in the next raiding game since he never did that in the first raiding game. Sirzech said all of this BS. As Riser was in anger, he was like, what? Because he knew this was blunt favoritism. As then Sirzech then said, Riser, are you objecting to me? As an aura enveloped Sirzech as Riser was in fear. As he then said, no, Lucifer, I'm not injecting you. Matter of fact, I accept this duel. As Rias found hope after she said that this will determine her fate, that maybe this will be her new savior, but then she realized she doesn't know if this being could beat Riser or not. As the aura, she also had hope that their leader was not going to be in a forced marriage. As then the black suited man and Riser were then glitched or teleported into an alternate dimension. As then Riser didn't even hesitate. As he then transformed. As fire enveloped his whole body, as he transformed into his strongest form so early. This form drains energy, but Riser was pissed. This guy had just ruined his wedding. He was now in embarrassment now. Because this guy had just ruined his wedding and had just kicked him acres. This will definitely go on to Devil News. And he could not have this embarrassment. He could not let this embarrassment slide. As then Riser then said, so you come in my wedding interrupting it, and then you come embarrassing me? No, boy, I will surely be done with you. I will surely do you with no mercy. I will surely kill you, said Riser, as he charged up at Issei. As Issei merely sidestepped Riser, making him fall, as Riser then tried to lunge back at Issei. As then, when Riser lunged back at Issei merely pointed his fingers as Riser was in the air. As everyone in the stadium, even Ozia, was shocked as she spit out her tea, as Riser was just stuck floating in the air. As then Issei contemplated in his mind, what should I do with you? What should I do with you? Issei didn't know what to do with him, so he just bitch slapped Riser across the whole pocket dimension. As Riser was sent reeling across the entire pocket dimension, leaving everyone who was watching this eyes wide and pure in utter shock that he was able to just casually fling around Riser like that. And the Phoenix family in Ravel, she was kind of mad because she was doing all of this boasting just for her brother to get beaten like this. This will surely be an embarrassment to their family name. As then Riser then said, infinite inferno, infinite palace, infinite flames, infinite heat. He said this as he charged up fire that was so hot that it can melt the very stadium they were standing. As he tried to shoot this up at Issei, as Issei's armor merely tanked it. As then Riser says, no, How are you able to willingly just take it like that? As then Issei then said, Riser, I had enough of your shenanigans. As then Issei then said, Great Sage, I'll let you deal with him. As Great Sage merely took over his body, Issei's body. As Riser, before he could do anything, Issei then merely said this in a cold tone, or should I say great sage, Bon Kai. As smoke came out of Issei's mouth, cold smoke. You know that smoke that comes out your mouth when it's winter? Yes, that came out of Issei's mouth. As the whole entire dimension froze. It was frozen pure in ice. The whole dimension froze. Everything froze. The cameras froze. But luckily, Sirzech had brought in drones in the stadium so they can watch the event. As Riser, everything about Riser was frozen. Down to his very immune system, his nerves, his cells. His nerves were frozen, so he couldn't even move his body, and his very soul and his mind were frozen. As then, Issei then said, I went too easy on you, but now I've showed you who you're really dealing with. I've showed you true power and showed you how small of an ant you really are. Now give up, Riser. As Riser, the only thing that wasn't frozen was Riser's brain. As Riser screamed out in pain and agony, as he literally had frozen tears coming from his eyes. As then Issei then said, Bon Kai, as it burned the entire ice that was covering the entire dimension, unfreezing the previous cameras, leaving everyone in pure and utter shock, leaving every spectator in shock, including Azia, who didn't know Issei wielded this type of power. She was contemplating if Issei used this type of power to defeat Rainier. It would make sense why Rainier was killed. But then Riser was on the ground, coughing up blood. As then Issei then wants to show Raphael, or a great sage wants to show how small Riser really is. As Issei engulfed himself in pure and utter flames. As he then shaped these flames and created a giant flaming Susanoo full of inferno. As this time, Great Sage, she was gonna have Riser freaking quit. She was gonna have Riser quit, but this time, Great Sage feels like doing something else. As Great Sage was about to stab the sword, as everyone was in pure and utter shock. Stab the sword, the Inferno sword, in Riser, as Great Sage then said, Riser Phoenix, your narrative ends here. Your story ends here. Your very concept ends here. Your very character ends here. About to erase him from this very story itself. Great Sage was about to do that as Issei was spectating this. No, not feeling any need to stop. As then Ravel then teleported to the scene. And she begged and she said stop in a crying and pleading tone. Not in a tone of commandment, but in a tone of crying and pleading. As she then says, I'm sorry for what my brother has done, but that doesn't mean you have to kill him. Please forgive my brother. I promise he will never do what he did. He won't do the things he did again. As then Great Sage, she felt kind of bad because this was a kid. So she then said through Issei's body, "Promise that Riser will never do any of this again, and I might just let him live. I might just let his narrative roam on still." As then Ravel then promises that Riser will never do any of this again. As then everyone was teleported back. As then Great Sage stopped taking over Issei's body. As Issei couldn't breathe in that helmet because it was uncomfortable. He could make it comfortable if he wanted to, but not for the sake of the story, he won't do that. It was very uncomfortable. As then Issei took off his mask and he said, "I can finally breathe." Oh, that mask was uncomfortable. As Rias's peers looked at him with wide-eyed. As they all said, including Rias, "Issei,